In recent years, you've probably heard some buzz about psilocybin, the primary molecule in magic mushrooms. Oregon was the first state in the US to create legal access to it, was truly groundbreaking. But you may be wondering, how does the program work? Do you just walk into a dispensary or a clinic and could it help me? There's a bewildering amount of information out there. So today I'm going to explain how the Oregon Psilocybin Service program works. I'm a longtime resident of Portland, Oregon, and helped campaign for the ballot measure that created this program. I ran one of the first facilitator training programs in the state. I recently published the first clinical trial run within the program, and I'm currently the chair of the governor-appointed Psilocybin Advisory Board, though I should point out the information and opinions that I share today are my own and do not represent the state of Oregon or the Oregon Psilocybin Advisory Board. I'm Dr. Matthew Hicks, and today we are talking about psilocybin in Oregon. So, how did we get here? In recent decades, there's been a lot of research and promising developments in the world of psychedelic therapy, but change in policy has been slow. No thanks to the many decades of stigma created by the failed war on drugs that began in the late 1960s and early 70s. But fast forward to 2019 when Tom and Sheree Eckert decided to take matters directly to voters. After gathering enough signatures to place it on the 2020 ballot, Oregon voters approved Measure 109, which outlined the basic parameters of the law and gave the Oregon Health Authority 2 years to build the rest of the program. In early 2023, psilocybin services became available for the first time anywhere. Here is how the program is set up. Oregon Psilocybin Services, which is a division of Oregon Health Authority, created a highly regulated ecosystem with 4 distinct license types. First, you have the manufacturers who grow the mushrooms in secure facilities. There's no synthetic psilocybin used in the program, and there's only one species of mushrooms that is allowed, Psilocybe cubensis. Second, you have the labs. Every batch of mushrooms grown have to send a sample to be tested for potency and purity. Third are the service centers. These are the licensed facilities where the experience actually happens. And fourth is the licensed facilitator. This is your guide throughout the experience. So let's say a little bit more about them. To get their license, a facilitator has to go through a state-approved training program. The state requires these programs to be at least 160 hours, which are divided across several categories, including things like ethics, pharmacology, the history of psychedelics, and how to handle difficult experiences, just to name a few. They also have to pass a state exam and a background check. To get into these programs, the state only requires a high school diploma or a GED and being 21 years of age, although the training programs themselves might have higher standards for admission. And here it's important to make a distinction. The law and the Oregon Health Authority use words like services and avoid words like treatment and therapy. Instead, they describe this as a supported adult use program. You might think of it as a hybrid program that it's not entirely medicalized, but it's not a recreational sales approach either. To participate, no medical diagnosis is required. Facilitators don't have the training or scope of practice to diagnose or treat any conditions. However, a large portion of the facilitator workforce in Oregon are dual licensed professionals, meaning they are also licensed psychotherapists, naturopathic doctors, nurse practitioners, and so forth. The irony here is that the data is clearly showing that the vast majority of people seeking psilocybin services are motivated by their desire to treat a mental health condition. So, when considering a facilitator, one would be wise to consider the professional background. There are many dual licensed professionals with years of experience and specialized training that might be warranted in your situation. If, for example, you're on multiple medications or your mental health symptoms are more severe. However, there are many less severe cases where someone with less training might be appropriate, and there are a lot of highly skilled and experienced facilitators in this category. Nonetheless, because the bar to become licensed is fairly low, I would recommend speaking with at least 2 or 3 facilitators before deciding to move forward with someone. Many offer free consultation to assess a good fit. Once you've decided on a facilitator, you begin the first of three main phases of preparation, administration, and integration. The first mandatory step is the preparation session. You must have at least one preparation session, though many facilitators will require or at least recommend several more. That's because deep and vulnerable material can come up during a psychedelic experience, and you don't want to feel like you're at the mercy of a stranger. Taking the time necessary to feel a sense of safety in the therapeutic relationship will be worth the extra cost and time. These sessions can happen in person or over Zoom. You'll go through an informed consent process and a mandatory screening. The facilitator needs to know your medical history, your mental health history, and very importantly, what medications you're currently taking. There are a few state mandated contraindications like active psychosis, mania, or certain heart conditions. If you pass the screening, you'll talk about several things, including boundaries, the use of touch, and what to do if things get challenging during the experience. And of course, your intentions. Why are you doing this work? When you and the facilitator are ready, you will book your administration session. Although there are efforts underway to modify the law to allow people with disabilities to have sessions in their homes or care facilities, there is currently no exception to the rule that all administration sessions must happen at a licensed service center. Service centers don't look or feel like healthcare facilities. Instead, they are set up to have a cozy vibe and are more like a therapist's office or a very comfortable living room. They're designed to help you feel safe and well contained. When you and your facilitator are ready, you'll purchase your mushrooms from the service center, usually with cash. By rule, the facilitator does not prescribe the psilocybin or the dose. Instead, they and the service center rep will advise you until an appropriate dose is agreed upon. Mushrooms come in chocolates and gummies, but the most common method of consumption is a dehydrated, powdered mushroom that is made into a tea or dissolved in juice. Once you consume the mushrooms, the session begins. These sessions can last anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on the dose. Your facilitator will be present with you the entire time. They aren't there to guide your thoughts or analyze you, but instead to use a non-directive approach to offer support in response to your needs. They're there to ensure your physical safety and provide a calm presence. If you get anxious, they're there to remind you that you're safe, offer you some water, or adjust the music. You'll likely spend much of the time with eye shades on, listening to a curated playlist, and focused inward. There are minimum lengths of time that you must stay in the service center that depend on your dose. You also can't drive afterward. You have to have a ride arranged before you start the session. Within a few days to a couple weeks, you'll have what is called an integration session. These can happen in person, but they more often happen online. This is where you debrief, talk about what you experienced, what you felt, and any insights you may have gained. Your facilitator is there to help you process the experience and offer suggestions about how you can weave these insights into your everyday life moving forward. So this sounds amazing to many people, but what about the cost? Because psilocybin is still federally illegal in the US, health insurance will not cover it anytime soon. Right now, in Oregon, a full journey can range anywhere from $1,500 to over $3,500 for a single experience. Some service centers and facilitators offer sliding scales or equity programs, but for the average person, it's currently a significant financial barrier. That's why I ran a feasibility study here in Oregon that provided group psilocybin therapy to low-income adults with depression. Stay tuned for another video describing that study, but I will leave a link to the paper in the description as well as a link to donate toward research that addresses accessibility to psychedelic therapy. So where do I start? Well, you can go to Oregon Psilocybin Services, the government website, where you can find a listing of licensees, both facilitators as well as service centers that can help connect you with someone that you may want to work with. You can also go to Synaptic Institute's website, synaptic.care, and choose one of our licensed facilitators to guide you through the process as well. Thanks for watching.